Got a question, a crazy question for all of you. What's the craziest thing you ever did because you saw an influencer do it? I have a story. It's fucked up, but you guys can go first.
Mine's really quick. Buy a bottle of Crystal Skull vodka.
Crystal Skull vodka. You saw Dan Aykroyd. You were like, oh man, Dan is cool with his Crystal Skull.
Okay, and the story behind it, just everything, man. He's sold it, man.
You gullible consumer piece of shit.
You know what? I stand by that fucking vodka. It's delicious. It's the best vodka I've ever had. So yeah.
I don't know if I have an influencer story, but I really want to see the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. I feel like really weird about it because it's basically a commercial for products. It's a children. Same thing with Detective Pikachu. Pikachu was like. It was such a lovely movie. I literally cried during it, but I have really conflicted feelings about it because it's so obviously like a commercial.
What about you, Ashley? Any weird influencer stories?
I don't know. I'm like highly suggestible. It's one of like my biggest flaws. So like if I see someone like on Twitter like do something or say something like really degenerate and inappropriate, my immediate response is I need to one up this. Like I just have this weird like competitive nature to
You want to beat the influencers. You don't want to be the influencers. You want to beat them.
Yeah, I suppose maybe that's it. Which is disturbing.
That's a different perspective.
Yeah.
Mine's pretty embarrassing. But since I'm like a hippie degenerate and I like follow a bunch of like spiritual Instagrams, there was this like thing called like a yoni cleanse.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like where you put rose water up your pussy and it's supposed to like align your chakras. So I like got rose water and I like put it up my vagina and I got like a really bad yeast infection, so I wouldn't advise that. I wouldn't advise anyone to do that.
Wow.
But the influencer was like, oh, it like changed my life, like the yoni cleanse will make you like a more
spiritual sounds like it changed
person.
Yours too.
It changed mine for the worse. So yeah, you shouldn't like believe everything you see on social media.
Right, Essena, I got a question. Are there influencers for influencers? Like, did you ever get suckered in yourself by like some sort of other kind of brand?
I guess it was a lot smaller pool. I feel like I knew people that had around my following and they knew of me, and like it was I think it was a lot, I don't know, it just felt a lot more, I don't know, I knew people that, around my following. So I guess I think the influencers influence each other. I think if it's anything like when I was back in it, I feel like the influencers are like hyper aware of what everyone else is doing. And I feel like that's just makes sense almost. I don't know. But yeah.
Is there like a sense of competition between influencers?
Yeah, totally. I think it's like if you, for example, when I was in LA, I felt like I was the most popular, I was the most famous in my group, and like people talked to me and I feel like asked me decisions like I was. I don't know. I don't know if that was just my experience, but I think it's like the more famous you are, it's like people treat you differently. I don't know. That's how I definitely experienced it.
Was it influencers that were kind of making you be like, oh shit, I'm like just internet famous, or was it actual celebrities? Or
yeah, is there like a big difference between like how famous people are treated and like how internet famous people are treated?
I feel like at the time I was there, like a few people that are around my age kind of had roles in Hollywood, just like I don't really want to say, but I guess they had publicists and like whole teams behind them. And there was this one person in particular that I remember, he had probably double my following, but he was the first one that made me realize that how much more engagement and realer mine was. He was like, no, I have publicists, I have like this whole like TV show and like all these things, but I still only get recognized by children. And like, I think there was this, when I was there anyway, it was, influencer was just being said. So I feel like that was like over, 4.5 years ago. So I feel like it was like this weird merging of like, actually, I think the followers, the internet is actually more clout and has more reach. And I think that was when it was just shifting towards that.
Starting to coalesce.
It's very interesting because like, a lot of celebrities are like now trying to move into the influencer pool by either doing podcasts or starting YouTube channels or starting health blogs like Goop.
Even the royal family.
Oh yeah, like Harry and Meghan's Instagram. The royal Instagram.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much.
Ex-royal.
His royal highness no more.
So yeah, I feel like old Hollywood's really trying to like hold on, but I also feel like Twitter, like Instagram, I feel like it's like politicians are here now. Like I feel like it's like educators, even like I feel like everyone, writers especially. Like I feel like I don't know. I feel like social media is kind of taking over everyone's life. I don't meet many people who don't have some engagement with people they like online.
Well, it's like so impossible to like have a career unless you do if you're in some kind of like media kind of thing. It's very it's incredibly pernicious because one of the things that I know attracted you to the work that Peter and I do is our talk about social capital and the metrics of these different platforms and how they sort of incentivize us to behave like cunts.
I have a different point to that. I think as well, I think Peter, you said it just before about you have to always be like aspirational or affirming. I think the pressure to always be like happy and like positive and like upbeat, I think that's got a sinister side as well. I don't know. That's kind of the...
Do you feel like it's kind of circular? Like, is there sort of a transactional nature where you're acting that way in order to get something back? Yeah, I mean, whether it's between you and other influencers, you from your audience, is it do you feel like incentivized, or did you feel incentivized rather, to continue to keep that sort of attitude, that projection of good feeling, aspiration on the up, etc.?
I feel like it's not that, I don't think at the time I was like, oh, if I'm happy, then I'll do well on social media. I think it was more, if I'm happy, people will like me. If I'm happy, then good things will happen to me. If I appear happy and like excited, then good things will just keep happening. I think I think at that young age it was more just like a societal pressure to like be a certain way, to have a certain persona. And I guess maybe I saw it as being professional as well. I think like if you're happy and like pleasant, then you're being professional. So I feel like, because I think nowadays it's way more of a trend on YouTube to be kind of like, I feel like hashtag mental breakdowns and just like being a bit more like sarcastic and like angry. I feel like that's way more the trend now. But back when I did it, it was really not that climate at all. So I think it depends on what is going around you more than anything else. I feel like, yeah, everyone's influencing each other in that game.